Well, Soul and Salsa.
Yeah.
We had to do a little quick.
Unfiltered. Look at us.
Like really unfiltered. Like, okay. But first of all, I want to thank you so much. I had a wonderful time in your city and in your home. You and your husband, my producer, Ray Chino. I'm not even going to tell you what we produced musically. And you were like, she had the headphones on. Tell them your expression.
Yes, and I'm the first critic, and I love her voice, of course. But like wife, they gotta be critics of the husband, and I can't tell you because then I give it away. But the music, that particular is not my whatever. But let me tell you something. I can't wait because even a high critic, approves of. It's just amazing. So watch out for that new single.
That's right, new single.
That is gonna be amazing.
He is good. So listen, you all. We wanted to come on here really quick. First of all, I want to congratulate you. Oh my gosh, Nilsa, just recently on her interview for a prestigious Christian magazine that is nationwide, and where she is talking with some other women ministers about collaborating and not being top down, but cultivating leadership, which is something that we all need to do, and seeing the difference between a church in the community and being a community church. And let me just say this on a sidebar, we're both doing our MDivs. We've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. That's another story. We'll talk about the academics, Christian academics, but Creshfield's work talks about how the church cannot allow the pastors to do everything, and that you need to have lay leaders having responsibilities. That's why I'm so glad, Hey People's Church, that we have lay leaders who are leaders, because the Bible says that we are all ministers of the gospel.
Absolutely.
So we all, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, and congratulations also on your book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. And what an amazing thing that even in New Mexico, you found the book was there. You had the chance to sign, some sign up. So that's God and ordained by God.
Praise God.
And I'm so happy that this is a moment where we can celebrate women. I also want to celebrate the other 4 women in the article. They are amazing. They are pioneers. I'm just humbled to be among them, because you know what? I'm sort of a newcomer, so to speak, with the experience that they had. And this is what is a wonderful thing when women come together, regardless of color, ethnicity, background, socioeconomics, because it shows that we can appreciate each other's experiences. It doesn't matter how old, how young we are, but we do need to recognize those that have been pioneers and have opened the doors for us, including our ancestors and other women that have been doing this work. And sometimes, we forget that. So I am humble of doing that. Of having that honor to be among those other 4 women.
Wow.
And my sister right here.
listen, and I just have to add to that with the book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I'm a contributing author, and out of about 1,000 entries, they chose 101, and I was one of them. And to be amongst women of color, Black women who are saying, I'm speaking now, it is so powerful. But to have all of this congratulations, and we're going to tell you what that means in a minute. We go through this situation at none other but the Dollar Tree. The Dollar Tree. So, okay, you open it up and then I'll come in, because it really, so the title of this is Colorism in Miami.
So, let me give you the background story. So here we are shopping, because as ministers, we don't do one thing. We wives, and we cook, and we do this, and we take care of our children, and we work. But at the same time, we take care of those that are taking care of elderly parents, and know how hard it is. So my parents just arrived here in Miami, and prayers. I mean, they're lovely, but it is, again, this is what women do, and it's a blessing to be a woman.
Okay, sidebar. Nilza decorated the entire apartment. First of all, it's not an apartment, it is a home. From the opening of the door to the end of the kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living. First of all, she can really do HGTV. It's amazing. And I have some pictures. I'll show them once I get permission. And just how appreciative her mother was. And you know what her mother said? Talking about top, right? Her mother said in Spanish, but it was still English too. She was like, I went from the bottom, in her mind, not that she was at the bottom, but I went from the bottom to the top. And then she was kept hugging. She's like, ay, Dios mío, oh. And I was filming everything. So, Nilza, you did a wonderful job. All right.
And that's another story.
Yes.
That's a testimony behind it. We'll talk about, how do we take care of parents that maybe we're not there for us.
Yes.
But that's
now. You better, that's a preach word there.
That's a humbling experience to say that it's, but I'm glad that I could do that for her. But anyhow, we were shopping for them to make sure, because they just arrived literally yesterday. So Michelle wanted me, thank you. So we shopping Dollar Tree, buying spices to put in the cabinets, canned goods, and all the other little things that you can get in Dollar Tree. Because hello, I love Dollar Tree.
So do I.
And especially here, because they got good things. I mean, really. Anyway, so we there, and I'm into my, I'm like that. When
she's
I'm
in
focused,
a zone.
I'm in my zone. Put it in. Michelle just there.
I was with the card. I'm like, okay, what do you want me to do?
10, this maybe middle age, a little bit, over maybe in 60s, whatever, comes in, Hispanic descent, and he goes in and he comes right in front of me while I'm, like looking at spices and things.
This is good.
So I thought I was in the way, so I was like, oh, Michelle, kind of like move the car, because I'm thinking I'm on the way, but then he doesn't. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he needs something. And then he starts telling me, oh, it's the beauty that flows through you, and how I'm with my mask and whatever. He's saying all these things poetic, and I'm like trying to find out, oh, okay. And then I hear the rhymes, so I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's exactly what she said.
That's all I said, oh, okay, thank you, because I still didn't know why he was doing that, but he did. And then I continue looking at the spices, but then with the corner of my eye, I see that he moves to Michelle, so I'm like gonna look again, because I said, we don't know who these people are, whatever, and he went to her, but I didn't know what necessarily happened, and I just know that he went and approached her, and I kept with my spices, and then
so he comes over to me, and I'm saying to myself, wow, what was that? I'm saying, well, if she got that, I'm gonna get something too. Well, what is this? A poetry down the aisle of Dollar Tree? And he looks at me like this. And walks away. So I said to Nilza, what did he say to you? And she began to speak. And she was like, it was like a soliloquy. It was like a poem. Like, you're like the sun, and your golden hair. And to me, he's like. So immediately, because I teach African American criticism at City College in John Jay, so I go into African American lens, the black lens. And I said, now this man looked at this beautiful Latina.
Oh, beautiful.
Right? Whiter skin, blonde hair. That is the epitome of beauty. And then comes to me, brown skin, short, curly, or they won't even say curly, kinky hair, and kind of looks at me like, yeah, sorry, don't know. And I said to myself, if I wasn't as secure within myself as a black woman, chicken soup for the soul. I'm speaking now, and my article is called The Uppity Black Teacher, where the Latino guy tells me, who do you think you are? You uppity, you coming up in here. I'm teaching in the prison. You coming up in here and you think you all that. And I had to tell him, no, I'm trained for this. And when that man did that to me, if I would have been 11, or if I would have been a little girl, think about what that would have done to my psyche. And I couldn't help think of internalized racism, which is a form of racism where you begin to take on the ideologies of the dominant culture. So if the dominant culture says that light and straight hair is right, then anything else is wrong. And this can be beautiful, but this is beautiful too, or as beautiful. That's why I love soul and salsa, and that's why even in our videos, when we were dancing, I told her, I said, we're like Miami Vice, you know. But we have to instill in our children, in our little girls, because you know what? That Latina little girl may not have straight hair. Her hair may be curly.
And in my family, you see, if you see my he passed away, my grandfather, or even my sister who has brown skin, my son, who again would think, you know, and even my other son who has maybe the light eyes and the blonde hair, and people confuse him from being Anglo, and they surprise he turns back, and in his community where he lives, you know, in Harlem, and he has to say, yo, I am not white. And then again, this is not to say we're not doing that, but how important it is that us, and maybe at that receiving end, because again, it has been the opposite as well. Then we went to Roma and she got all the praises.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then I said, honey, if your husband give you any problems, you come to me. And I said, well, thank you. But it was very interesting. He was a browner hue. But you're right. Thank you for acknowledging that I did get some praise that day.
But and then we laugh about it, but we talked about it, because again, me as a Latina, and let's say whatever it is that man, and I could say honestly, knowing my culture, not in all instances, but in some of the our culture, that it was not ill intended, or it didn't mean. I think sometimes, you know, again, they not either educated enough, they're not exposed, or people like us do not stop them. Like, I didn't hear what he was saying, but if I did, you better believe that I would have said, oh, wait a minute, she's due, and you know, when you see her, you see me, and when you see me, you see her. So, but you know, we also are responsible to educate in those moments, to make sure that we say, wait a minute, you know, and that sometimes changes people's perspective, or be like, oh no, you know what, I didn't mean that, this is what I meant, or I'm sorry I made you feel that way, or whatever. So I think that's important. And like, you know, you said, our kids, it's important that we instill those things. You know, I got
what are you doing today?
My grandkids, you know, your sons, and the next generations to appreciate what beauty is. And beauty is not this social class or this status, but us as children of God, we are made in the image of God. And what a beautiful thing that we are not the same.
That's right.
That we have different shapes, sizes. You know, some people may say that I speak awful because I have an accent, and I said chicken and cheese. Yes. And that's how it's going to stay, because I can't say it another way. Right. And again, they might think I'm not smart. Yes. They might, you know, whatever, right? Have prejudices against that as well. But I think that it is important that we do things like this. And that her, and I'm going to use this term loosely, her pain in that sense is my pain. Yes. And then my pain becomes her pain. And that we can educate people to say, you know, we are, especially in the faith community, which we are guilty of this. Hispanic, African Americans, all races, we have been guilty of making differences between the children of God. Now,
Yes.
the world may get a pass, but us as a faith community, we do this among women, we do this among, families, even in our own families,
Yes.
we make distinctions. I remember one time my granddaughter has curly hair, and in school, now she's light skinned, but she has curly hair. And it's sometimes, hard thing to be blowing her hair out, so we leave it curly. And in school, I guess kids made a comment, and she said she wants straight hair. And we said, no, your hair is beautiful.
Yes.
Sometimes grandma can straighten it out, so it could be good, so you could have another look. But curly hair.
And I remember when I was younger, and then that's it. When I was I love Barbie and Ken. Who didn't love Barbie? Like, Barbie was the white doll and she had long straight hair. And I remember for Christmas, Juana, who's my deaconess now, we agreed, we were 11 years old, that our dolls were going to play with each other. And when I opened up my Barbie doll, I was gasped because the doll was colored brown. And I just was like, oh my God, like what happened to this doll? And my mother said, because that doll looks like you. That doll looks like you. And at first, and she colored the plastic. Y'all know if you color plastic, it's gonna have like that hard edge on it. But I thank God that my mother did that at 11 years old, because I love myself. I love my brown skin. Earlier, I did the video at the pool, and I'm like, it's the melanin for the Jesus within. But if we don't tell our children that they are beautiful, when I wanted to get a perm, all my friends got a perm early, and my mother said no. I didn't get a perm until I was 18 years old, and actually I regret it. And that's why whether I get a weave or natural, I will always, for me, be curly, because I'm doing that for me. But it doesn't mean that if a sister wants to wear her hair straight down to the ground, you're still beautiful. And that's the thing. We have to stop saying this is not acceptable and this is acceptable.
Which, by the way, don't get fooled, we can also make assumptions, because my hair ain't straight, and it's not because I put and it's not because I put relaxer to make it straight. And I'm not saying anything of that is wrong. I'm just saying that sometimes we make assumptions.
Yes.
My hair, it is as curly or even more curly than that when I leave it like without doing anything. The reason I don't even do it, because as you see, my hair is colored and it tends to damage my hair. But again, sometimes we also assume, oh, look at her, she wants to be blonde because she want to be blonde because she thinks blondes. No, the only reason I'm be blonde because that's the only way I could cover my gray hair. Because if I dye it dark, it comes. You could see it faster.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I do have a little certificate of beautician, so I know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, she is good.
But I'm saying all that to say it's that sometimes we make assumptions. Even at first, for me, which color is not an issue with me, because I consider, I'm a mixture of Afro, Anglo, right, Spaniard, and the indigenous. So I'm a mix, and most of Latinos, we are melting pot.
And African Americans, we are all mixed. Why?
Right.
Because of slavery, because of the raping, and because of how we were treated by the dominant culture. So when people come up to me and they say, you can't be all black, I'm like, why not? They're like, because you have high cheekbones, or because your lips are not full, or because we're all, y'all trying to play like you one specific race, which is a construct anyway. We are all one, and thank God, as we are in the 19 minute, that we are all one body of Christ, because that's the way Christ wants us to look at each other, that this is my sister and you are my sister, my brother, not because of a color, but because of the Father who has died on the cross, that we can all have this good life and have it more abundantly.
Absolutely. And we are here in different, again, expressions of faith.
Yes.
And
Collaborations.
We all may not agree in certain even theologies for those that.
Because, honey, we last night at dinner, we was Paul and the women and the papacy and the papacy and
We
the
had a
da. So we could get into all of that. But I wanted us to share together that even in our older ages, that this is still going on, and that if we are not, number one, be proud of who you are, love who you are, and number two, which is what I tell my husband, who's Italian American, you teach your people. So like Nilsa said, if she would have heard, then she would have been like, oh no, because it is our responsibility to teach our people. So my responsibility to blacks, Afro Americans, is don't allow the dominant culture to don't align yourself with the ideologies of the dominant culture, because you are more than that. You are more than a conqueror because of Christ.
Exactly. And you should be proud of who you are. And again, everybody have its place in the kingdom. We all children of God. Even the people that may not speak like you, may not think like you, and even those who we still consider the dominant culture, not necessarily for numbers, right, statistically, but due to power. But we all are at fault in that too, because even in our cultures, we do the same. We exercise power and become the oppressor for our own people. But I think that this is a time, even COVID, if COVID hasn't teach us anything, I don't know what it's going to teach us, but it had, at least for me, has taught me that, and even in this walk of faith and ministry and the work that I do in leadership, that when it stops for everyone.
That's right.
For the poor, for the not so poor, for the white, for the brown, for the Asian, for everyone, it stopped, and it forced us to rethink what it means to be again, not just another church or space taking, actually another building taking space in the community, but being actually a church that is missional, that engages the community, and that is there, not just taking space. And that's two different things. And how do we collaborate that? We don't need to be holding control.
And could it be that the Lord himself, in the omnipotent way that he moves, could it be that this is ordained by God to shut everything down so that we do not have a choice but to come together, but to start churches online, but to go and do outreach? Some churches weren't doing anything, but they were forced to, because God is calling us to a greater calling. And what is the calling? To minister the gospel to all people. So you know what? To that man who said that to me, oftentimes, as Nilsa said, people don't even realize, but internalized racism is when you believe what the dominant culture says. Intraracial racism is when the lighter people look down on the blacker, darker people because they are trying to assimilate. Let's cut that out. Let's cut it out. Let's dead it right now. And let's come together. All colors. And look at the beautiful colors of skin that we are. And we need to embrace that. So, we hope that this blesses someone.
Yeah, someone.
Someone is,
and encourage us, all of us, again, to collaborate, to be together, to teach, to educate, to inform us. Yeah. To be churches that are informed. Yeah. And we need to be informed.
And love.
And again, and love. And we talk about the age. We could be here forever.
Yeah,
Michelle has to catch a plane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes.
But even our Asian brothers and sisters that are different culture, and oftentimes I've seen like that they're not seen because they are more quiet, or again, it's sometimes a matter or seem more cold, and it is because of their culture. So I think we have to engage culture. We have to learn about it. I keep emphasizing learning. If I wasn't even did an effort, being intentional, because I was intentional in my ministry to engage with the Afro-American churches and communities, and I'm so thankful for my sister. Shout out Metropolitan Church, everybody, Reverend Brown, just everyone, that they taught me a lot. But it takes intentionality. You have to want to be in those spaces, embrace those spaces, and learn from them. So
now, you can't keep talking. Now, I got to add on to that. And one more thing. I preached at a Chinese church during the height of the pandemic. There was about 120 people in this Zoom. So I called my ministry partner, Pastor Adrian, shout out, Fresh Oils Ministries. I said, listen, I want you to come and be with me, because I knew that God was going to do something great. We're there in the church, and they began to apologize. We're sorry. We're sorry for our silence. And you know what I told them? I said, here we go. When you see me, you see them. When you see them, you see me. So when you see another black person, don't look at them and shun them. Think about Reverend Michelle. Think about when she came to your church. So we have to really embrace who we don't know by who we know. That's a word. Girl, that's a word right there. But also just, here we are, women in ministry, and I'm so grateful for those in ministry, and I'm grateful for you. And I told her, my husband said, why you got to tell a story all the time? I said, because we were at the Sanctuary Church. We were both doing our thing.
Shout out to Reverend Susana,
our cohort,
sister, doing wonderful things. Bishop, yes, all of them. And if you are in the New York area, go visit LPAC, Latino Pastoral Action Center, because it is a model where you could see how ministry comes together with community.
And if you're in the Harlem area, you want to go to Fresh Oils Ministries. And if you can't get to any church, if you can't get there, you come on Zoom to the People's Church, where we have members from North Carolina, Virginia, Atlanta, Connecticut, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and India. My sister, who I just met on Facebook from India, she came on. So
hence it's called the People's Church.
Listen, there's somebody you want to find some place, reach out to us. But okay, in closing, but we do thank God for our cohort leader, Bishop Raymond Rivera, because he ordained us. Some of us were ordained already. I have been in ministry for 20 some odd years. Nilson's been in ministry and ordained. Olga, Janet, Susanna, but he officially ordained us for urban ministry. And so we thank him for that, because if he hadn't done that, not that God wouldn't have done it, but he paved the way. So we're all aligned with holistic ministry. Before I met Reverend Rivera, holistic ministry. Before Nilsa came in we all have been doing holistic ministry, but Bishop Rivera put a cap on it. He put a label on it. So we want to acknowledge that when we got ordained, it was 5 women. That doesn't happen. There's usually 1 man in the back, or there's 5 men and 1 woman, but he ordained 5 women, and we are forever grateful.
Yes.
And so listen, 28 minutes. We said we was going to do 15, and that's it.
And again, shout out to our brothers as well, because we don't want to say here this is a bashing
go ahead.
of the man.
Who?
We
just one husband. I love you, Dr. Lou DeCarlo. You're everything.
That I learned so much. From him, but even all of our partners in ministry, Bishop Carrion and Robert Guerrero and Doctor, but he's Doctor.
Speak it into existence.
Pastor Lewis, and there's so many people that are men of God that have worked, and even those that may not even think on the same theological frameworks, that we still collaborate here in Miami. The same. I'm so thankful for brothers that say, you know what, I'm going to collaborate with you for seeking the shalom of our cities, coming together for the common good of the people that God has called us to serve.
Okay, one more thing.
That's something like
one more thing.
Like
right. because I just did a paper on women and no walls, and what happened is that I think it's 43 or 33% of men know God but don't go to church. And so you have a lot of men who their wives go to church. You have more women in church than men. And so I want to give a special shout out because Crashfield, one of the books that we had to read for Dr. Barbara Austin Lucas, shout out to her, was how pastors need to not do everything themselves. No longer can the pastor do everything. And that the pastor has to use lay people. And even that term, I don't really want, but members of the church. So I want to shout out Deacon Rodney Roundtree. I want to shout out faithful leader Anthony Joins, and my husband, of course, and my son, even as a 15-year-old. But just to say that there are men and women coming together, and I thank God that these men would not count it robbery to come under my leadership, because a lot of men do not want to follow a woman. That's another session. All right. Okay. Lord God, we just thank you and we just love you. And Lord God, even if for one person, let them be blessed by what we have said in English and in Espanol.
Espanol.
Say it in Spanish. Say it in Korean.
Okay. Sorry, I told you it was unfiltered. Gracias, Dios mío, te damos las gracias por ser el Dios que eres, el Dios misericordioso, que aun cuando no lo merecemos, extiendes tu misericordia y tu gracia y tu justicia sobre nosotros. Te pedimos, Señor, que hoy estas palabras bendigan a alguien, Padre, para que ellos también puedan ser parte integral de la misión a quien tú nos has encomendado, y que podamos aprender uno de los otros y que podamos apreciar todos, porque todos somos tus hijos. Amén.
Instead of buenos días, hallelujah.
I know.
Hallelujah.
Spin off. Buena. Salsa. No.
Soul and salsa. Salsa y soul.